The World Health Organization says Israeli forces attacked their main warehouse in the central Gazan city of Deir el-Balah, causing extensive damage.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that there would be another round of peace talks between Russia and Ukraine on Wednesday. Central European Petroleum has announced the discovery of Poland's largest oil deposit in a decade.
Belgium is restricting access to family reunification, a political choice that's part of a growing trend across Europe. The World Health Organization has condemned what it called a blatant attack on its facilities and staff in the central city of Deir el-Balah in Gaza. The organization says Israeli forces attacked its main warehouse and the residences of staff, causing extensive damage. It added that its response capabilities to humanitarian crises were also severely reduced. The warehouse, storing everything from medical supplies to clothing, was bombed in the early hours of Tuesday and then looted by desperate locals, according to the WHO. The staff residents and the families living there were subjected to 3 separate attacks, one which caused a fire as well as structural damage to the building. Israeli forces stormed the building during the shelling, forcing women and children to leave on foot towards Al-Mawasi, which Israel designated a safe haven on Sunday. It comes as Israel carries out what it described as a major ground operation in the city. It's the first time the IDF conducts an operation on the central city, noting previously that they've avoided it as they believe Hamas may be harboring hostages there. Deir el-Balah is one of the last remaining areas in the enclave to still be standing, having suffered minimal damage so far in Israel's 21-month offensive. Dozens were killed in Israeli attacks on the city in the past 48 hours, and hundreds of thousands were forcibly displaced.
Russian forces launched a wave of drone and missile attacks on Ukrainian cities overnight, killing 1 and injuring dozens. In Kramatorsk, a 10-year-old boy was killed and at least 8 injured after a Russian FAB-250 aerial bomb struck a residential building. Drone strikes damaged garages, houses, vehicles, and an industrial area in the city. In Odessa, Russian forces targeted the city with more than 10 drones. Civilian infrastructure, including a car park, a gym, a bank, and a residential building, were damaged in the attack. Late on Monday, a Russian attack on the northeastern city of Sumy injured 12 as it struck residential buildings. In one part of the city, 5 apartment blocks and 18 vehicles parked near the buildings were damaged in the blast. Russia's overnight attacks come as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Monday evening that there would be another round of talks between Russia and Ukraine scheduled for Wednesday. So far, talks between Russia and Ukraine have resulted in large-scale prisoner swaps, but no concrete steps to end the war.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said in his evening address on Monday that there would be another round of peace talks between Russia and Ukraine on Wednesday.
Сьогодні я обговорив з Рустемом Умєровим підготовку обміну та ще однієї зустрічі в Туреччині з російською стороною. Умєров доповів, що зустріч планується на середу. Завтра буде більше деталей.
2 previous rounds of negotiations between Russia and Ukraine have resulted in large-scale prisoner swaps, but no concrete steps being taken to end Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine after more than 3 years of war. Moscow continues to intensify its long-range attacks on Ukrainian cities, and analysts say the barrages are likely to escalate. Russia's conditions for peace include Kyiv's complete withdrawal of forces from 4 regions it claims to have annexed as new territory. Ukraine's condition is a ceasefire to further negotiate. It also wants the reciprocal exchange of prisoners of war, the return of children abducted by Russia, and the release of all civilians from Russian captivity.
Germany and the United States have agreed to deliver 5 Patriot air defense systems to Ukraine. The announcement comes as Russia ramps up its campaign of long-range strikes on Ukraine, including using ballistic missiles which only Patriot systems can shoot down. Ukraine's former Prime Minister and newly appointed Defense Minister Denis Shmyhal says the systems will significantly bolster his country's aerial defenses.
Air defense, especially Patriot and PAC-3 missiles, along with ammunition, are crucially important to us. Russian terror is continuing, so we need to strengthen our air defense. I request the US to make these weapons available for purchase and our European partners to extend all the needed financing for their procurement.
Germany's defense minister Boris Pistorius issued some words of warning to Russia's President Vladimir Putin.
This sends a clear message to Putin. Dragging out the war will come at an ever higher cost to him. Ukraine will continue to successfully defy Putin's war machine and will weaken it a little more every day. It is our duty, colleagues, and our obligation to actively support our Ukrainian friends in this regard.
The news was announced by defense ministers of the Ramstein Group, who met virtually via video link for the 29th Ukraine Defense Contact Group session. The overall sentiment coming out of the meeting was that Western support for Ukraine will not wane and that Russia will be defeated.
Russian lawmakers have voted to approve legislation introducing fines for searching for extremist content online, as well as penalties for advertising and using VPN products. The so-called extremist content includes political slogans, books, music albums, and artworks. Russians will now face fines if they're found to have deliberately searched for material listed as extremist by the Justice Ministry. Moscow residents expressed confusion over the proposed measures.
Для меня, как для молодежи, это прям немножко непонятное движение, как и большинство принимаемых движений за последние несколько лет, поскольку, а смысл нас как-то ограничивать, все равно всегда будут находиться какие-то точки обхода и так далее. И опять же таки, странно очень в современном мире как-то ограничивать человека в его информации.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has instructed the government to propose additional restrictions on software use in Russia, specifically targeting services developed in what Moscow terms unfriendly states.
Это YouTube. Это вражеская платформа. Там всех наших забанили людей. Как говорится, идеология отмены. Кто не то говорит, того нет.
Russia has tightened control over the internet since launching its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, seeking to curb access to information and limit foreign influence. German Interior Minister Alexander Dobrindt visited the Polish-Belarusian border on Monday, praising Poland's border control strategy. During his visit with his Polish counterpart, he said Germany strongly supports Polish measures to curb migration efforts from Belarus through the Baltic states. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk and others in his government argue that Russia and Belarus are deliberately encouraging foreign citizens to cross the border in an attempt to destabilize Europe. Dobrindt also voiced support for Poland's more recent decision to introduce border controls with Germany and Lithuania, in response to Berlin's decision to push migrants back to Poland. The two ministers emphasized that the reciprocal controls on the Polish-German border are temporary, and their common goal is to lift them as soon as possible and to focus on protecting the EU's external borders. Central European Petroleum has announced the discovery of Poland's largest oil deposit in a decade, located off the country's Baltic Sea coast. Preliminary figures suggest the site contains 22 million tons of crude oil, along with 5 billion cubic meters of commercial-grade natural gas. That would more than double Poland's current estimated oil reserves, which stood at around 20.2 million tons in 2023. The find could play a key role in reducing Poland's dependence on imported fossil fuels, particularly as the country looks to strengthen its energy autonomy. Nevertheless, experts told Euronews the discovery will not shake up the European energy balance, although it will likely fuel investment into oil discovery in the Baltic Sea.
The fate of migrants and their families in Belgium is decided in this highly administrative building. Last week, members of parliament passed a government bill restricting access to family reunification. This scheme enables foreign nationals with a legal residence permit to bring in one or more family members. From now on, refugees will only have 6 months to submit their applications. Beneficiaries of subsidiary protection will have to wait 2 years. The minimum income required to apply has also been increased.
If someone wants to bring over their partner and 2 kids, that person has to earn 2,700 net income per month, which is a huge amount. And I would say that the average employer in Belgium does not even earn that much.
The Minister for Asylum and Migration is defending these measures because she believes in the need to reduce the influx of migrants. NGOs argue that these new rules are a disguised way of making family reunification impossible and risk plunging migrants into an even more dangerous situation.
The consequences for refugees in Belgium will be a prolonged separation of their families, having an impact on their integration and inclusion in Belgian society. It is difficult to learn the language if you're preoccupied with your partner in Afghanistan, for example. And then for refugees in the countries of origin, whereas previously they could use this safe and legal pathway to come to Belgium, this is no longer available. So they will turn to human smugglers to come to Europe, to Belgium.
Belgium's case is not isolated. Last week, Portugal also adopted more stringent measures for granting family reunification. In Germany, lawmakers approved the suspension of the scheme for people who do not have refugee status last month. Austria has also suspended the scheme for a period of 6 months.